The champagne flute felt slippery in my hand. Crystal. Of course. Waterford. The kind Michael insisted we register for when we got married 8 years ago. Image matters. Rachel. He'd said, pointing at the pattern in the bridal catalogue. People notice the details. Tonight, the detail everyone at the Synapse Dynamics holiday gala would notice was my husband. Or rather, the lack of him beside me. I took a sip. Bubbles stung my tongue. Too sweet. The grand ballroom of the Carlton Regency shimmered, a sea of black tie, sequined gowns, and polished smiles that didn't reach the eyes. A string quartet soared through a jazzy rendition of A Christmas Carol. It was all very Synapse, sleek, expensive, and cold enough to hang meat. My burgundy velvet dress, which had felt elegant and subdued in my closet, now felt like a costume. Too dark, too matronly. I'd argued for the emerald green silk. The red is, a lot. Ratch. Michael had said this afternoon, not looking up from his phone. You want to blend, not scream for attention. It's a corporate event, not a nightclub. So, burgundy it was, the color of dried blood. Rachel. There you are. I turned, plastering on my own polished smile. Elise. You look stunning. She did. A silver column dress that clung to her CFO frame. Her smile was sharp. Assessing. We were wondering where Michael's better half was hiding. He's been holding court at the bar for an hour. Quite the storyteller tonight. Her gaze flicked over me. A quick inventory. Love the dress. Very traditional. Thank you. The words tasted like tin. I just got here. Traffic on the 101 was a nightmare. Always is. Well, don't let him drink all the single malt. Jackson's doing the big donor thank you speech soon. And Michael's supposed to be on stage with the leadership team. She gave my arm a squeeze that felt like a warning. Go rescue him. She melted back into the crowd. I finished the champagne, the sweetness now cloying, and wove through the clusters of Synapse Elite. The company, a disruptive force in predictive behavioral analytics, was basically a fancy spy agency for advertisers. Michael, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, was a star. I was the accessory that came with the title. I spotted him near the marble-topped bar, surrounded by a ring of junior executives and their spouses. His laugh, a loud, barking sound he'd cultivated in the last few years, cut through the murmur. He had a fresh scotch in one hand, gesturing broadly with the other. His tuxedo jacket was already unbuttoned, his bow tie slightly askew. So I told the guy, if your data model can't handle a simple cohort analysis, you might as well be using a magic 8-ball. The circle erupted in obedient laughter. I hovered at the edge. This was the routine. Wait for a pause. Slide in beside him. Touch his arm. Darling. Let him introduce me. My wife. Rachel. Smile. Nod. Laugh at nothing. His eyes slid past me, then back. A flicker of something, irritation, before the practiced, host-like grin settled on his face. Ah, the wandering wife arrives. Everyone, this is Rachel. My better half, as they say, though I'm not sure by what metric. Polite chuckles. A few nods in my direction. Sorry I'm late, I said, my voice sounding thin. The traffic. Rachel operates on what I call event horizon time. Michael interrupted, slinging an arm around my shoulders. It was heavy, proprietary. The closer she gets to an occasion, the slower time moves. It's a scientific mystery. We should pitch a study to RD. He squeezed. Too tight. The laughter was louder this time, edged with relief that the joke wasn't on them. My cheeks burned. The 101 was backed up from University Avenue. I repeated, uselessly. I'm sure it was. Sweetheart. He took a long swallow of his scotch. You missed a good one. Derek was just telling us about his disaster vacation in Cabo. Food poisoning. Jellyfish. The works. Sounded more like one of your itineraries. Honestly. A blonde woman, Derek's wife. Maybe, gave me a sympathetic wince. I tried to smile back. Failed. Can I get you a drink? Michael. Some water? I asked quietly. I'm perfectly hydrated. Thank you, Mother. He turned back to his audience, dismissing me. Now, where was I? Right. The vendor in Tokyo. I stood there for another agonizing minute. His arm a hot weight. The laughter washing over me. Then, I gently extracted myself. I'm just going to freshen up. He didn't look at me, just waved a hand. The walk to the ladies' lounge felt like a mile. Each click of my heels on the marble floor echoed my heartbeat. Blend. Don't scream. Blend. The lounge was an oasis of quiet. All soft lighting, orchids, and the faint scent of gardenia. A woman was leaning close to the mirror, carefully reapplying a deep red lipstick. Lisa Chen, Michael's director of operations. Sharp, unflappable. The one who actually kept his department running. We weren't friends, but we'd exchanged enough pleasantries at enough events to be more than strangers. She saw me in the mirror's reflection. Rachel. Hi. Her smile was brief. Professional. Hi, Lisa. I moved to the sink next to hers, turning on the cold water just to have something to do. My hands were steady. I was always steady in public. It was a point of pride. And a prison. Big crowd tonight, she said, blotting her lips on a tissue. The biggest. I splashed water on my wrists. The chiller shock. Michael's in fine form. A beat of silence. Lisa capped her lipstick, dropped it into her clutch. She didn't look at me, but her posture changed. Grew still. He's been celebrating the queue for numbers all afternoon. The leadership retreat at the vineyard started at lunch. I met her eyes in the mirror. Hers were dark. Unreadable. I see. Jackson is very pleased with him. The Asclepius deal. She named a biotech giant. A flagship client Michael had landed. Lot of pressure to deliver. Though, the integration is complex. Michael's been under a lot of strain. It was more than she usually said. More than was professionally advisable. It wasn't sympathy. Exactly. It was data. A warning flag. Strain manifests in interesting ways. I said, my voice perfectly even. Her gaze held mine for a second longer. It does. For everyone. She straightened up. The auction should be starting soon. For the children's hospital. It's usually quite a spectacle. Jackson likes to get people loosened up first. She gave me a final, inscrutable look. Good luck, Rachel. She left. The door slid shut behind her. Loosened up. A spectacle. Good luck. The words hung in the perfumed air. I stared at my reflection. The woman in the burgundy velvet looked calm, pale, but composed. Her makeup was flawless. Her hair, swept up in a simple chignon, hadn't strayed. She looked like the poised, supportive VP's wife. The gilded picture frame was intact. No one could see the hairline fractures spreading across the glass from the inside. I took a deep breath. This was the routine. We would get through the auction, some overpriced wine tasting. A weekend in Napa, Michael would make a showy bid. We'd smile for the photos. And we'd go home. In the car. He'd be sullen or silent. I'd stare out the window at the passing lights. We'd retreat to our separate sides of the bedroom. Tomorrow. We'd pretend it was fine. 8 years of fine. I fixed a non-existent strand of hair. Adjusted a bracelet. One more performance. Then I could take off the costume. I left the lounge. The sounds of the gala swelled as I approached the ballroom doors, the clink of glassware, the rising tide of drunken conversation, the quartet now playing something brassy and upbeat. I paused at the threshold, scanning for Michael. He was no longer at the bar. I saw him near the front, by the stage that had been set up. He was talking animatedly to Jackson Reed, the CEO. Jackson, a silver-haired shark in a Bryony tuxedo, was laughing, clapping Michael on the back. Michael threw his head back, laughing too. The picture of camaraderie, of success. A man in a headset gestured to them. Jackson nodded and stepped onto the low stage. Moving to the podium, the stage lights, which had been dim, brightened slightly. The quartet stopped playing. A gentle ding-ding-ding of a knife on a champagne glass rang out. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, if I could have your attention for a moment. Jackson's smooth, CEO voice boomed through the sound system. The crowd quieted, turning towards the stage. Servers paused in their tracks. I began moving down the side of the room, sticking to the periphery, aiming for the empty chair I spotted at our assigned table near the front. Michael's back was to me. Thank you. Thank you, Jackson said, beaming. What an incredible evening. The spirit in this room, it's palpable. And it's for a palpable cause. Polite laughter. Our annual gala isn't just about celebrating a stellar year for Synapse, and it has been stellar. Thanks to all of you. He gestured expansively. It's about giving back. About using our success to fuel the success of our community. Tonight, all proceeds from our live auction will go directly to the Bay Area Children's Hospital Oncology Ward. To bringing a little light, a little hope, to some truly brave kids. Warm, earnest applause. I slipped into my chair. Michael didn't turn. He was focused on Jackson, rocking slightly on his heels. Now, we have some truly spectacular items for you tonight. Jackson continued. A private chef's dinner for 10 at the French Laundry. A week-long safari in Botswana. The keys to a limited edition Aston Martin for a month. Oohs and ahs rippled through the crowd. But before we get to those, we like to start with something a little more interactive. A little more fun. To get the competitive juices flowing, our auctioneer for the evening, the incomparable Mr. Felix Durant, a spry, older man in a tuxedo with a red bow tie, bounded onto the stage, shaking Jackson's hand. Jackson. Thank you. What a crowd. Are we feeling generous tonight? A roar of affirmation. The open bar had done its work. Wonderful. Now, our first few lots are what we call our mystery experiences. Unique, unforgettable, and sometimes a little unconventional. All for the kids. Right? Felix grinned. A consummate showman. Our first lot is a mystery, donated by one of our very own. The description is, well, I'll let the donor explain it himself. He's a man of many words, and I'm sure he'll do it more justice than I could. Please, a big round of applause for your own. Michael Thorne. My blood went cold. What? The applause was loud, raucous. Michael turned, his face flushed with triumph and alcohol, and gave a mock bow. He didn't look at me. Not once. He strode to the stage, taking the steps 2 at a time. Jackson handed him a wireless microphone with a hearty slap on the shoulder and stepped aside. Still smiling, Felix, the auctioneer, looked momentarily surprised but recovered with a professional chuckle. The floor is yours. Michael, what tantalizing experience have you donated for us tonight? Michael swayed slightly as he took center stage, the spotlight making his face look stark. His smile too wide. He held the microphone too close to his mouth. A low feedback whine cut through the air before the sound tech adjusted it. Thank you, Felix. Jackson. Everyone. His voice was too loud, slurring just at the edges. This is a truly unique experience. One of a kind. Can't get it anywhere else. He grinned. A predatory flash of teeth. The crowd chuckled, anticipating a joke. My hands were clenched in my lap. The velvet of my dress crushed under my fingers. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. We're all here to give. Right? To be generous. Michael paced a little on the stage, playing to the room. So I thought, what's the most generous thing I can give? The most valuable thing I have to offer? He paused for dramatic effect. The room was quiet, curious. Then he pointed directly at me. The spotlight operator, confused, swung the light. It hit me. A hot, blinding circle of white, trapping me in my chair. I flinched, raising a hand against the glare. 150 heads swiveled to look at me. I was a deer. Frozen. My wife. Michael boomed, his voice echoing in the sudden, appalled silence. The lovely Rachel, a few uncertain titters. My face was on fire. I could feel every eye. See the confusion, the dawning shock, the morbid curiosity. Now, hear me out. Michael chuckled into the mic, as if sharing an inside joke. This is for charity. For the kids. And let's be honest, folks, It's a sacrifice on my part too. He winked. A grotesque gesture. So, what am I offering? He leaned into the microphone, his voice dropping to a mock confidential tone that was still amplified to the back of the room. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A full evening with my better half. What does that include? You ask. He started counting on his fingers. His movements exaggerated. 1. You get to experience her world-renowned domestic management. He said it like a punchline. A burst of nervous laughter came from near the bar. My vision started to tunnel. 2. You get a front row seat to her fascinating running commentary on, well, everything. The woman has opinions. So many opinions. More laughter. Louder now. Fueled by alcohol and the sheer, shocking audacity of it. And 3. He held up 3 fingers, grinning like a game show host. The pièce de résistance. You get to witness the legendary morning after. He paused, milking it, complete with the hair, the face, what's the word I'm looking for? Sweetheart. He pretended to think, tapping his chin. The spotlight was still on me. I saw people staring, some covering their mouths, some grinning openly. He snapped his fingers. The glamour, yes. You get to see the full, unfiltered glamour of Rachel Thorne before her first gallon of coffee. The room erupted, not in applause, but in a wave of gasping, shocked, drunken laughter. It was too much. It was cruel. It was public. It was a evisceration disguised as a roast. Tears of humiliation burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I stared straight ahead, through the blinding light, at the distorted figure of my husband on the stage. My face was a mask of stone. Felix, the auctioneer, looked horrified. Jackson Reed's smile had vanished, replaced by a stiff, alarmed expression. He took a half step forward, but Michael was in his element. So, Michael yelled over the din, spreading his arms. Who's feeling generous? Who wants to take this unique experience off my hands for a night? For the kids. Remember. For the kids. Do I hear an opening bid? He scanned the crowd, his eyes gleaming. Come on. She cooks. She cleans. She'll talk your ear off about sustainable thread counts or the existential dread of laundry. It's a bargain. He was panting slightly, exhilarated. The laughter was dying down, replaced by an uneasy, buzzing murmur. People were glancing from him to me and back, unsure if this was still part of the act. Then, a voice shouted from the back, near the bar. A voice I recognized, David Miller, Michael's golf buddy and a notorious sycophant. I'll start it off. $3, a fresh wave of laughter. More relieved this time. An out. It was a joke. A terrible, tasteless joke. But a joke. They could laugh now. Michael threw his head back and roared. $3. Do I hear $4? $4 for the chance of a lifetime. She's a bargain. Folks. Used. But in decent condition. The spotlight was still on me. It felt like a physical weight, crushing me into the chair. The velvet of my dress was damp under my clenched hands. The room. The laughter. Michael's grinning, sweat-sheened face. It all receded, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in my ears. I saw Lisa Chen, standing near the stage. Her face was pale, her expression one of pure, unadulterated disgust. Not for me. For him. Used. But in decent condition. The words hung in the air, ugly and final. They shattered the last pretense. The hairline fractures in the gilded frame gave way, and the glass exploded. Something inside me, something that had been bending for 8 years, finally snapped. Not with a cry, but with a silent, cold, crystalline clarity. The laughter was dying again. Uncertain. Felix moved to take the microphone. All right. Michael. Hilarious. Thank you. Let's move on to... Michael jerked the mic away. No. No. We have a bid. $3. Going once. I stood up. The chair legs scraped loudly on the parquet floor. The spotlight operator, startled, tried to follow me. I walked, not towards the exit, but towards the side of the stage. My steps were slow, deliberate. The crowd parted before me. A sea of stunned, staring faces. The murmuring stopped. The only sound was the click of my heels on the hard floor and the thud of my own heartbeat in my ears. Michael saw me coming. His grin faltered for a second, then widened. A challenge. Ah, the lady herself. Coming to sweeten the deal. I reached the steps. I didn't look at him. I looked at Felix Durant, the professional auctioneer, who was staring at me with a mixture of pity and panic. I held out my hand, palm up. My hand was not shaking. For a long second, he just stared. Then, as if moving in a dream, he slowly, carefully, unhooked the spare microphone from the podium and placed it in my outstretched hand. My fingers closed around the cool, solid metal. I turned it on. A small red light glowed. I walked to the center of the stage. I stepped between my husband and the audience. I could feel the heat of the spotlight, the weight of hundreds of eyes. I saw Jackson Reed in the wings, his face ashen, making a frantic, cut motion across his throat to someone off stage. I ignored him. I turned to face the crowd. I looked out at them, the blurred faces of colleagues, strangers, the people who had just laughed at my annihilation. I saw David Miller near the bar, his drink halfway to his mouth, frozen. I saw Elise, the CFO, her hand over her mouth. I saw Lisa Chen, standing rigid, her eyes locked on mine. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. I brought the microphone to my lips. My voice, when it came out, was calm, clear. It carried to the very back of the silent room. It didn't sound like my voice. It sounded like the voice of the woman I should have been years ago. Thank you for that spirited introduction, Michael, I said. The flat, measured tone cut through the air like glass. There was not a trace of hysteria, of tears. And thank you, David, for that generous opening bid of $3. It's more than I expected. To be honest, a ripple of nervous, confused sound. I turned slightly, just enough to see Michael from the corner of my eye. His smirk was gone. He was staring at me, confused, a hint of alarm in his bloodshot eyes. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I faced the crowd again. I allowed myself a small, icy smile. It didn't reach my eyes. But I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding, I said, my voice dropping to a conversational, almost intimate level. The room leaned in, compelled by the sheer, terrifying stillness of me. You see, Michael is offering the wrong item. It's not me that's the unique experience up for bid tonight. I paused. Let the silence stretch. Let them wonder. After 8 years of marriage, I continued, my gaze sweeping the room. I believe I am the world's leading expert on the real Michael Thorne experience. And as an expert, I can tell you, it's vastly overrated. A sharp intake of breath from somewhere. A stifled cough. Michael found his voice. Rachel. What the hell are you? He lunged for my microphone. I took a quick step back. Out of his reach. I didn't raise my voice. I spoke directly into the mic. My eyes still on the audience. The constant critique. The financial surprises. The profound, soul-crushing loneliness of sharing a bed with a stranger who thinks your value peaks at $3 on a charity stage. Give me that. Michael hissed, trying to grab my arm. Jackson Reed finally moved, stepping forward. All right. That's enough. This is highly inappropriate. So, I said, my voice rising, cutting through Jackson's, ringing with a new, metallic authority. I'd like to correct the auction item. And I'd like to make a bid of my own. I looked straight at Michael, finally giving him my full attention. I saw the fury, the panic, the dawning realization that he had unleashed something he could not control. I am offering, I announced to the room, to the world, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Not for an evening with me. I let the words hang, poised like a blade. I am offering the exclusive, priceless right to watch me divorce this man. The silence was absolute. You could have heard a champagne bubble pop. All proceeds, I said, slowly, clearly, will go to the Bay Area Women's and Children's Crisis Shelter. A cause I suspect will resonate with more than a few people in this room. I turned back to the crowd, my heart hammering against my ribs. A wild, fierce energy coursing through me. The spotlight wasn't a trap anymore. It was a weapon. Do I hear an opening bid? I asked, my voice cool, steady, and as sharp as broken crystal. Shall we say, $1? The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It was a living, breathing thing, thick with the static of 150 people holding their breath. I could hear the hum of the spotlight, the rustle of a sequined gown as someone shifted, the distant clink of a glass from the kitchen doors. I stood in the center of that silence, the microphone a lifeline and a lightning rod in my hand, feeling the weight of the room's collective shock press down on me. My husband's face, just a few feet away, was a masterpiece of purple rage and slack-jawed disbelief. Then, from the back of the room, a single, sharp sound pierced the vacuum. Clap. One slow, deliberate clap. Then another. And another. Heads swiveled. My gaze snapped to the source. It was a woman I didn't recognize. Maybe early 40s. In a simple but impeccably cut black dress. She stood alone near the entrance. Her expression unreadable. Her claps were measured, stark, and they echoed in the hushed space. They weren't applause. They were a period. A punctuation mark on the end of my old life. The spell broke. A murmur swept through the crowd. A low wave of disbelief, scandal, and a fizzing undercurrent of excitement. This was better than any silent auction item. This was Bloodsport. Jackson Reed was the first to move with purpose. He strode onto the stage, his face a rigid mask of corporate damage control. He reached for the microphone in my hand. Rachel, Michael, this is completely unacceptable. This event is for charity, not for personal, he floundered. Dramas. Give me the microphone. Please. I didn't relinquish it. I looked past him, at Michael, who seemed to be emerging from his stupor. The fury was solidifying, turning his eyes into dark, dangerous slits. You psychotic bitch. He snarled, the words not loud, but vicious. What the hell do you think you're doing? I'm correcting the lot description, I said, my voice still amplified, still calm. It was a miracle. Every nerve in my body was screaming, but my voice was a glacier. You offered damaged goods under false pretenses. I'm providing full disclosure. Jackson stepped between us, putting a hand on Michael's chest. Michael, stop. Now. His voice was low. A CEO's command. He turned back to me, his tone shifting to one of strained reasonableness. Rachel, please, let's take this offstage. We can discuss this privately. You're upset. And rightly so. Michael's had too much to drink. This is a misunderstanding that doesn't need to play out in front of everyone. A misunderstanding? I repeated, tilting my head. The microphone caught the gesture, amplified the dry rustle of my hair against the velvet of my dress. He offered to sell me for $3. What part of that is unclear? A gasp. Then a titter from the audience. The tide was turning. The initial shock was morphing into a collective leaning in. This was the most entertainment they'd had all year. It was a joke, Michael roared, trying to push past Jackson. A fucking joke. You humorless harpy. Can't you take a joke? I've been taking your jokes for 8 years. Michael, I said, and for the first time, a sliver of heat entered my voice. The one about my frumpy college friends. The one about my hobby career. The one where you told the Carters I was between projects when I'd just lost my mother. I'm done taking jokes. The mention of my mother, of that specific, private cruelty, made something flicker in his eyes, not guilt, but surprise that I'd remembered, that I'd dare to weaponize it. Jackson was losing his patience. Felix, he barked at the stunned auctioneer. Get control of your stage. Move to the next lot. Now. He made another grab for my mic. I stepped back again. Out of his reach. The bid is still open, I announced, speaking over him. The right to witness the dissolution of my marriage to Michael Thorne. All proceeds to the crisis shelter. Do I hear $1? You will not turn my charity event into a circus. Jackson hissed, his polished veneer cracking. It became a circus the moment my drunk husband put me on the block. I shot back. I saw Lisa Chen in the front row. She was no longer just watching. She had her phone out, held discreetly low, but the screen was glowing. Recording. Taking notes. I couldn't tell. Then, a voice rang out. Clear. Female. And laced with a venom so sweet it could have been syrup. I'll bid $100. Every head, including mine, whipped towards the sound. It came from a table near the left of the stage. A woman stood up. She was stunning. Platinum blonde hair in a severe, perfect bob. A crimson dress that screamed money and malice. Caitlin Vance. Michael's ex-fiancée. The one before me. The one he'd left, but never quite let go of. The one whose name sometimes slipped into his stories, always with a tinge of what might have been. The room collectively gasped. This was better than a soap opera. Michael's face went from purple to ashen. Caitlin. He breathed. The word a mixture of horror and a strange, twisted longing. Caitlin ignored him. She looked only at me. A faint, icy smile on her expertly painted lips. $100. She repeated, lifting her champagne flute in a tiny, mocking salute to me. For the shelter. Of course. Jackson looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. Ms. Vance. Please. This is not. 200. Came another voice. Male. From the middle of the room. A man I vaguely recognized from the tech blogs. A rival of Synapse. He was grinning. Clearly enjoying the meltdown of a competitor's executive. Hell. I'd pay to see the prenup alone. The dam broke. The shock had worn off. Replaced by the giddy, ruthless thrill of watching a train wreck in real time. With the added bonus of charitable tax deduction. $250. Someone shouted. $300, $500 from the gentleman in the hideous bow tie. This from a woman at the back. Prompting a roar of laughter. The bids came fast. Overlapping. Shouted. Gleeful. It was a frenzy. Felix Durant, the professional auctioneer, stood utterly paralyzed, watching his stage become the Colosseum. Jackson had stopped trying to get the MIC. He was now speaking urgently into his own headset. Presumably to security. To his PR people. To God. Michael was staring at Caitlin. His expression one of utter betrayal. Then he turned his fury back on me. You did this. He spat. The words meant only for me. But the MIC in my hand picked up the raw whisper. You planned this. You and that spiteful bitch. I didn't answer him. I looked at Caitlin. Her eyes met mine. And in them, I saw no kindness. No sisterly solidarity. I saw vengeance. Long-simmered and finally served ice cold. Her bid wasn't for me. It was against him. And for tonight. That was alliance enough. We have $1,000. I announced. My auctioneer's voice surprisingly steady. The spotlight was burning my skin. But I felt colder. Clearer. With every bid. Do I hear 1,100? For the right to see the great Michael Thorne get what's been coming to him for a very, very long time. 1,500. It was David Miller. His face red. But his hand in the air. Trying to salvage something? Trying to buy his way back into Michael's good graces by winning and shutting this down. The irony was exquisite. 2,000. Caitlin again. Without hesitation. Not even looking at David. Her eyes were on Michael. Stripping him bare. 2,500. The rival tech guy. 3,000, 3,500, the numbers climbed. Absurd. Surreal. My life. My pain. My humiliation. Quantified in escalating $100 increments. All to benefit a shelter for women fleeing men like the one standing next to me. The poetry of it was so dark it was almost beautiful. Then, a new voice cut through the fray. It wasn't a shout. It was calm. Authoritative. And it came from the right side of the stage. Near the wings. Lisa Chen had stepped forward. Her phone now at her side. $10,000. The room fell silent again. The air sucked out by the figure. This wasn't a joke bid. This wasn't a rival's jab or an ex's revenge. This was a serious, substantial, devastating amount of money. From his director of operations. Michael turned to stare at her. his confusion absolute. Lisa, what are you doing? Lisa ignored him. She looked at me, her dark eyes intense. $10,000, she repeated, clearly, conditional on the dissolution being thorough, and on the shelter receiving the funds via a direct, transparent transfer that I can verify. Her words were a sledgehammer wrapped in velvet. Conditional on the dissolution being thorough. It wasn't just a bid. It was a statement. A threat. It implied knowledge. It promised exposure. Lisa. Jackson interjected. His voice strained. Think about what you're doing. I have. Jackson. She said. Her gaze never leaving mine. I've thought about it for 18 months. $10,000. The rival tech guy whistled. Low and appreciative. He spread his hands, yielding the floor. This was no longer sport. This was an execution. I found my voice. We have $10,000 from Lisa Chen. A bid that carries considerable weight. I paused, letting the implication hang. Do I hear any other bids? Going once, I scanned the room. The glee was gone, replaced by a wary, fascinated silence. Caitlin Vance looked from Lisa to me. A new calculation in her eyes. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head. She was out. This was beyond her personal vendetta now. Going twice, Michael was shaking his head, back and forth, like a wounded animal. This isn't happening, he muttered. This is a nightmare. You're all insane. Sold, I said, the word cracking out like a gavel. For $10,000. To Lisa Chen. Congratulations. You've just purchased a front row seat to the end of an era. I lowered the microphone. The sudden lack of amplification made the room feel deafeningly quiet. The spotlight was still on me, hot and blinding. Jackson finally moved, snatching the mic from my hand. This portion of the evening is concluded, he said, his voice hoarse. The bar will remain open. The silent auction tables are still active. Please. Enjoy the music. He gestured weakly at the string quartet, who had been gawking, frozen, for the past 10 minutes. They jolted into action, scraping into a frantic, discordant version of Winter Wonderland. I didn't wait. I turned and walked off the stage, the opposite side from where Michael stood rooted, staring at Lisa. My legs felt like water, but they carried me. I moved through the crowd, which parted for me like I was contagious. I saw faces, averted eyes, shocked stares, a few, very few, small, grim nods of solidarity from other women. I didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't go to the table. I walked straight out of the ballroom, into the cool, hushed marble of the hotel lobby. The click of my heels was the only sound. I felt dizzy, untethered, floating a foot above my own body. Rachel. I stopped. I didn't turn around. I knew the voice. Lisa caught up to me, her steps efficient and quiet. She stood beside me, not touching me, looking straight ahead at the Grand Hotel entrance. The doorman was outside, hailing a cab for someone. My car is in the valet, she said, her voice low and matter-of-fact. I'll take you wherever you need to go. I have a car, I said, my own voice sounding strange to me, detached. You're in no state to drive, and he'll be looking for you at yours. She finally looked at me. Her expression was unreadable, but not unkind. It was the look of a strategist assessing a completed maneuver. Come on, let's get out of the line of fire before the shrapnel starts flying. I hesitated for only a second. Then I nodded. We walked in silence to the valet stand. She handed over a ticket. A sleek, black sedan glided up a moment later. She held the passenger door open for me. I slid in. The leather seats were cool. The world outside the tinted windows was blurred, insubstantial. Lisa got in the driver's side, started the car, and pulled away from the hotel, merging into the stream of San Francisco nighttime traffic. The Carlton Regency, with its glittering lights and its ballroom full of ruin, shrank in the rearview mirror. We drove for 5 minutes in absolute silence. The city lights slid past, streaks of gold and white. Finally, she spoke. The 10,000 is real. I'll have my assistant draw up a cashier's check to the shelter tomorrow morning. I'll CC you on the email. I looked at her profile, lit by the dashboard lights. Why, she was quiet for a long moment, navigating a turn. Because someone should have done it a long time ago, she said, her voice tight. And because the thorough dissolution isn't just about your marriage. I waited. She took a deep breath. The Asclepius deal. The one he's been celebrating. The integration is a mess. The data doesn't reconcile. There are discrepancies. Significant ones. In the accounts he controls. She glanced at me. He's been moving money. Small amounts. But consistently. Covering tracks. I've been documenting it for months. I took it to Jackson twice. He told me to handle it. That Michael was under stress. That he'd make it right after the bonus payout. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening finality. The unexplained withdrawals from our joint account. The bad investments he'd been vague about. The new watch. The clubs. The constant insistence that my spending was the problem. It wasn't stress. It was theft. His embezzling. I said. The word flat and heavy in the quiet car. I have spreadsheets. Lisa said simply. Emails. IMs. He wasn't careful. He thought he was untouchable. And Jackson was willing to look the other way as long as the big deals kept closing. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Tonight, when he did that to you, it was the last straw. I was going to go to the board next week. But your way was more poetic. Poetic. A $10,000 poem of ruin. So your bid, I began, was a down payment. She finished. On justice. And a guarantee that when the walls fall down, they crush the right person. He won't be able to bully or charm his way out of this. Not with this spectacle attached to it. The board will have to act. The auditors will be all over it by Monday. I leaned my head back against the seat. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving a vast, hollow exhaustion. Where are we going? My place. It's secure. Dorman. No one gets up without me. You can stay as long as you need. She paused. You should call a lawyer. Not just a divorce lawyer. A shark. I can give you names. I closed my eyes. The images flashed behind my lids, Michael's grinning face on stage. The spotlight hitting me. The sound of my own voice. Cold and clear. Selling the end of my marriage. Caitlin's crimson smile. Lisa's calm. Devastating bid. It's over. I whispered. Not to her. But to myself. It's just beginning. Lisa corrected. Her voice grim. The fun part's over. Now comes the war. The car moved smoothly through the night, carrying me away from the gilded cage. The door was open. I had walked out. And I had just auctioned off the key. Lisa's apartment was a minimalist's dream in Pacific Heights, cool grays. Sharp lines. A wall of glass overlooking the dark expanse of the bay. It smelled of lemon cleaner and quiet money. She handed me a glass of water and a phone charger. Movements efficient. Devoid of unnecessary sympathy. Guest room is down the hall. Bathrooms stocked. Help yourself to anything. She placed a business card on the quartz countertop. Samantha Cho. The best family law attorney in the city. She eats guys like Michael for breakfast. Call her first thing. Tell her I referred you. She'll know what that means. I stared at the card. The elegant embossed type blurring. The numbness was wearing off. Replaced by a fine, all-over tremor. The enormity of it all was a black hole, tugging at the edges of my mind. Lisa, thank you. But why are you? She leaned against the counter, crossing her arms. I told you. The embezzlement. I've put 6 years into Synapse. I built that department. He's not just going to burn it down around me and walk away with a golden parachute. Her jaw tightened. And what he did tonight, that wasn't just an asshole move. That was a declaration. It told every person in that room exactly how little he thinks of the people he considers his property. I don't work for a man like that. Not anymore. It was a cold calculus. But an honest one. Revenge and risk mitigation. I could understand that. It was more solid than the quicksand my own life had become. My clutch, which I'd clutched like a talisman through the whole surreal exit, buzzed insistently. I pulled out my phone. The screen was a wall of light, 24 missed calls, 17 text notifications. Michael, 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 Jackson Reed, unknown numbers, my sister, Anna, my mother's old number, a stab of grief. No, that was impossible. It was Anna again. Then, a new call flashed, David Miller. I almost dropped the phone. David, his golf buddy, the one who'd shouted the opening bid, $3. Answer it, Lisa said, her voice low. Put it on speaker. A strange calm settled over me. I swiped to answer. David. Rachel. Jesus. Rachel. Are you okay? Where are you? His voice was a frantic whisper, led with panic and what sounded like genuine concern. Listen. What Michael did, that was fucked up. Totally fucked up. We're all in shock. He's lost it. Has he? I said flatly. He's looking for you. He's raging. Jackson's got him in one of the private suites, trying to calm him down. But, look. You can't go home. He's on the warpath. I'm so sorry I played along. That $3 thing. It was just, the mood. You know? You didn't think at all. David. I cut in. But thank you for the concern. Is that all? A stunned silence. Rachel. Please. Let me help. Let me come get you. We can talk. We can figure this out. Michael's my friend. But this is too far. You need protection. Lisa was making a slashing motion across her throat. Her mouth formed the word, lawyer. I have all the protection I need. David. Goodbye. Wait. Rachel. Listen. I ended the call and set the phone face down on the counter. It immediately buzzed again. Michael. Don't. Lisa said. Not tonight. He'll try to love bomb you. He'll try to gaslight you. He'll try to make it your fault. You're in no state to navigate that. Let him stew. Let him panic. She was right. The texts started pinging in rapid succession. I didn't read them. But the previews flashed on the screen. Rach, please call me. I'm so sorry you humiliated me. We need to talk. This is insane, baby. Please, I was drunk. I didn't mean. What the hell was that with Lisa? Answer your phone. Where are you staying? I love you. The last one made a hollow laugh escape my throat. A bitter, broken sound. Lisa's expression didn't change. She picked up my phone, turned it off completely, and set it aside. First rule of war, control the communications. She said, use my landline to call your sister. Tell her you're safe. You're with a friend. And you'll explain tomorrow. Then get some sleep. The battle starts at 9 a.m. with Samantha Cho. She nodded toward the hallway. Go. Shower. Burn that dress if it helps. I stood. My limbs heavy. I paused at the entrance to the hallway. Lisa, the $10,000. I can't let you pay that. It's too much. She finally offered a small, sharp smile. Think of it as a strategic investment. The return, when Michael's world comes crashing down, will be immeasurable. Now go. Shower. The hot water's excellent. I walked down the hall, the plush carpet muffling my steps. The guest room was as pristine and impersonal as a hotel suite. I locked the door behind me. For a long moment, I just stood there, leaning against it, listening to the profound silence. No Michael. No demands. No subtle insults hanging in the air. Just silence. Then, the dam broke. It wasn't the humiliating auction that did it. It wasn't the public evisceration. It was the simple, sterile kindness of a locked door and a quiet room offered by a practical stranger. The sheer, staggering relief of being away. The sobs came from somewhere deep. A place that had been walled off for years. They racked me. Silent and violent. I slid down the door to the floor, velvet dress pooling around me, and cried for the woman who had stood on that stage. I cried for the woman who had taken the jokes, swallowed the criticism, made herself smaller and smaller to fit the space he allowed. I cried for the years I'd apologized for existing too loudly, for wanting too much, for simply being. I cried until my throat was raw and my head throbbed. Then, the tears stopped as suddenly as they'd begun. The hollow exhaustion returned. But it was cleaner now. Scoured out. I pushed myself up. I went into the gleaming bathroom. I looked at the woman in the mirror. Mascara was smudged in dark moons under her eyes. Her lipstick was gone. Her hair was falling from its chignon. The burgundy velvet looked like a costume in a tragedy. I reached back, found the zipper, and pulled. The dress slithered to the floor in a heap. I stepped out of it. I left it there, a puddle of failed armor on the cool tile. The shower was, as promised, excellent. The water was scalding hot, beating down on my skin until it turned pink. I didn't move. I just stood there, letting it wash over me, trying to scour away the feeling of the spotlight, the sound of the laughter, the ghost of his hand on my shoulder. When I emerged, wrapped in a towel thick enough to drown in, I saw my phone, where Lisa had left it on the nightstand. I had no clothes, just the dress on the floor. I opened a drawer. It held a folded, soft cotton t-shirt and sweatpants. They weren't mine. They were Lisa's, or meant for guests. I put them on. They smelled faintly of lavender. I picked up the landline phone by the bed. My fingers, for a moment, forgot my own sister's number. The muscle memory of dialing Michael's cell was stronger. I pushed it away, and the numbers came. I dialed. It rang once. Hello? Anna's voice. Wary. Worried. It's me. Rachel. Oh my God. Are you okay? Where are you? I've been calling. I saw, someone texted me a video. A clip. I couldn't see much. Just you on stage and Michael yelling. And people are saying crazy things. That he tried to sell you. That you, Anna. I interrupted. My voice raspy but steady. I'm safe. I'm at a friend's place. I'm not going home. It's over. The marriage. It's done. A long silence. Then, a shaky exhale. Okay. Okay. Good. Tell me where you are. I'm coming to get you. No. Not tonight. It's complicated. I'm safe here. I'll explain everything tomorrow. I needed you to know I'm alive. You're sure you're safe? This friend, who is it? She's an ally. I'll explain tomorrow. I have to call a lawyer in the morning. Another pause. Then, my no nonsense. Big sister Anna came through. All right. Okay. Call me at 8 a.m. No later. Anne. Ratch. Her voice softened. I'm proud of you. Whatever happened. I'm proud you're out. Tears threatened again. But they were of a different kind. Thanks. Anna. I hung up. I got into the unfamiliar bed. The sheets were crisp. Cool. I lay in the dark. In a stranger's clothes. In a stranger's apartment. And stared at the ceiling. The images played on a loop. The spotlight. The $3 offer. The look on Michael's face when I took the MIC. Caitlin's crimson smile. Lisa's calm. Devastating. $10,000 verdict. And my own voice. Echoing in the silent ballroom. Do I hear $1? I had started the bidding. Not on a marriage. On a reckoning. Outside. The city glittered. Indifferent. Somewhere. Michael was fuming. Plotting. Maybe crying. Somewhere. Jackson Reed was spinning damage control. Somewhere. Videos from the gala were being texted, posted, dissected. But here, in the quiet dark, for the first time in 8 years, I was free. And tomorrow, the war would begin. Sleep was a shallow, fitful thing. I drifted in a haze of half-remembered cruelty, Michael's laugh as he jokingly corrected my grammar at a dinner party. The cold silence that greeted me when I told him I'd been passed over for a promotion. The feeling of my burgundy dress pooling on the bathroom floor. The digital clock on the nightstand glowed 5:47 a.m. when I gave up. Dawn was a grey smear against the window. The apartment was silent. I crept out, finding Lisa already in the kitchen, dressed in black athleisure wear, sipping an espresso. A second cup sat steaming on the counter. She slid it toward me without a word. The bitterness was a shock, a necessary anchor to the new, terrible day. I've emailed Samantha Cho's office, she said, her voice low and even. Sent a précis of the situation, told her it was urgent. She'll call you at 9. You'll use my study. It's soundproofed. She handed me a thin, sleek laptop. Burner. Fresh. Use it for anything related to this. Your phone is a tracking and recording device he has access to. Leave it off. I took the laptop. The cool metal casing feeling like a weapon. Thank you. Lisa. I don't know how to, don't. She cut me off. Not unkindly. We're aligning interests. That's cleaner than gratitude. Your husband, as of 6:02 a.m. Pacific Time, has been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. The board emergency committee convened via video link an hour ago. Jackson fought it. But the optics, after last night, were untenable. The embezzlement allegations, now that they're formally on the table with a witness, forced their hand. The news should have felt like a victory. It felt like a boulder rolling downhill, gathering speed. And I was at the bottom. So it's public. Inside the company. It will be public by lunchtime, she said, checking her watch. Synapse's PR team is in full containment mode. But the gala was full of people with phones. A clip is already making the rounds on industry Twitter. It's grainy. You can't hear everything. But you can hear him say, $3 and you can see you take the MIC. The rest is guesswork. But the guesses are creative and accurate. She met my eyes. You need to be ready. The narrative is yours to control for maybe the next 3 hours. After that, he and his lawyers and Jackson's spinners will try to take it back. You need Samantha Cho. And you need to tell your story first. Tell my story. I echoed. The idea was horrifying. Exposing more. Making it all real. Not the feelings. Lisa said. As if reading my mind. The facts. The financials. The pattern. You need to be a credible source. Not a scorned wife. The auction gave you the spotlight. What you say in it now is what matters. She finished her espresso. I have to go. I'm leading the internal task force. Irony is a bitch. Make yourself at home. Do not answer the door. The doorman has instructions. And with that, she was gone. A ghost in expensive workout gear. Off to dismantle my husband's life from the inside. At 8:55 a.m., I was sitting in Lisa's study. A room of severe beauty. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A vintage steel desk. No personal photos. The only color was the view of the bay through another wall of glass. The burner laptop was open. My own phone, still powered off, lay on the desk like a dead insect. At 9 a.m. precisely, the landline rang. Rachel Thorne. The voice on the other end was not what I expected. It was warm, almost melodic, but with a core of polished steel. This is Samantha Cho. Lisa Chen said you'd be expecting my call. Are you in a secure location where you can speak freely? Yes. I'm at Lisa's apartment. Good. First, I need you to understand I am not your therapist, your friend, or your cheerleader. I am your attorney. My only goal is to achieve the best possible legal and financial outcome for you. That will require complete, unvarnished honesty from you. And may require you to do things that feel uncomfortable, even brutal. Do you understand? I understand. Excellent. Now, from the top, tell me about last night. Omit nothing. Even if it seems insignificant. I talked. For 45 minutes. I talked. I told her about the burgundy dress. The $3 bid. The spotlight. The sound of my own voice counterbidding. Caitlin Vance. Lisa's $10,000. I told her about David Miller's panicked call. I recited, as best I could, the previews of Michael's texts. Samantha listened without interruption. I could hear the faint scratch of a pen on paper. When I finished, she was silent for a moment. You have remarkable composure, Rachel. That will serve you well. Now, the financials. Tell me everything you know about your joint assets, debts, accounts, his, yours, shared. I recited numbers, bank names, investment accounts I'd been locked out of, the vague allusions to market downturns and leveraged positions Michael had used to explain why we couldn't afford things I knew we should be able to afford. And your own income? Prior to marriage? During, I had been a marketing director for a mid-sized retail chain. I'd made good money. I'd quit when Michael's career took off. When he'd convinced me his star was rising so fast it needed my full-time support to shine. I haven't had a steady income in 4 years. I do some freelance consulting, but it's sporadic. He controlled the household finances. I had an allowance. Another scratch of the pen. I could almost feel her disapproval vibrating down the line. Not at me. At the situation. Lisa mentioned financial irregularities at his company. Embezzlement. Do you have any knowledge of that? Only what she told me last night. That he's been moving money. That she has proof. That proof is our sword and our shield. It means his income is not only in jeopardy. It may be subject to clawback. It means his ability to fund a prolonged legal battle is questionable. It also gives us enormous leverage. He will be desperate to settle quickly and quietly to avoid criminal charges. We will not let him. She laid out a plan with swift, brutal clarity. I would file for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. But the separation agreement would detail financial misconduct and emotional abuse. We would immediately file for a temporary restraining order barring him from my home, and for exclusive use of our joint accounts pending forensic accounting. We would subpoena his work emails, his financial records. We would, with Lisa's cooperation, go for the jugular. He will retaliate, Samantha said. He will smear you. He will call you hysterical, vindictive, greedy. He will say you're trying to ruin him because you're embarrassed. We need to get ahead of it. Today. How? We release a statement. Not to the press. To a single, trusted journalist. We control the narrative. We are calm, factual, and we center the charity. We express profound disappointment in Michael's behavior, our concern for his well-being, and our commitment to ensuring the Bay Area Women's and Children's Crisis Shelter receives the generous funds pledged. We do not look like we're attacking. We look like we're cleaning up a mess he made. With dignity. It was brilliant. It was cold-blooded. It was exactly what I needed. Will you draft it? I asked. My voice thin. I already have. I'll email it to Lisa's secure address. You will review it. You will make it sound like you. Then, you will call an old colleague of mine, Meredith Kane at the Chronicle. You will read it to her. You will answer no follow-up questions except, I have been advised by counsel not to comment further at this time. Is that clear? Yes. Good. The other thing you will do today is go to your home. With a police escort, which I will arrange. You will pack a bag of essentials, documents, medications, personal items of value. You will not engage with Michael if he is there. You will say nothing. You will take nothing that is clearly his or could be contested. You are retrieving your property, not looting. Understood. My heart clenched at the thought of going back. Of seeing him. Understood. Rachel. Samantha's voice softened. Just a degree. This is the hardest part. The first move. It gets harder before it gets easier. But you took the microphone last night. Now you have to know what to say into it. I'll be your script. Trust the script. She gave me the number for Meredith Kane. She told me the police would meet me at a cafe near my house at 1 p.m. She told me to eat something. Then she hung up. The email arrived 2 minutes later. The statement was perfect. It was me. But a better, stronger, untouchable version of me. It expressed shock and deep personal sadness at the unfortunate and inappropriate events at the charity gala. It thanked the compassionate individual whose symbolic bid had highlighted the importance of the shelter's work. It confirmed my commitment to ensuring the pledge was honored and that I was taking time to focus on personal and legal matters following this profoundly difficult experience. It ended with a request for privacy. It was a masterpiece of saying everything and nothing. It made me sound gracious, wounded, and impeccably respectable. It made Michael sound like a drunken oaf. I made 2 tiny changes to make the language more my own. Then I picked up the phone. Meredith Kane answered on the second ring. Kane. Ms. Kane. This is Rachel Thorne. Samantha Cho suggested I call you. My voice wavered only slightly. A pause. A keyboard clicked. Rachel. Yes. I've heard some things. I'm glad you're safe. What can you tell me? I have a brief statement. I'm going to read it. I cannot take any questions at this time. Understood. Go ahead. I read it. The words felt alien in my mouth, but their power was immediate. When I finished, the line was silent for a beat. That's it? Meredith asked. Her reporter's instincts frustrated but her tone respectful. That's all I can say at this time. The shelter's development office can confirm the donation when it is processed. Thank you, Ms. Kane. Thank you, Rachel. And for what it's worth, good luck. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I clasped them together, pressed them between my knees. It was done. The first salvo. By 12:30 p.m., I was in an Uber, wearing borrowed jeans and a sweater from Lisa, headed to the Marina District. My home, a pristine, modern box with killer views that Michael had insisted on, that I'd never loved, loomed as the car approached. My stomach was a knot of cold dread. The police cruiser was already there, 2 uniformed officers standing beside it. A small cluster of people with phones were gathered across the street. Neighbors, gawkers. One looked like a reporter. My statement was doing its work. The older officer, a woman with a kind, tired face, approached as I got out. Mrs. Thorne? I'm Officer Ruiz. We'll accompany you inside. Is your husband likely to be present? I don't know, I said, my voice small. Stay behind us. If he is there, do not engage. Point out what you need. We'll retrieve it. You have 15 minutes. We walked to the door. My key felt strange in the lock. I pushed it open. The house was silent. It smelled of lemon polish and emptiness. Too empty. Michael. Officer Ruiz called out. San Francisco Police. We're accompanying Rachel Thorne for a personal property retrieval. Please identify yourself if you're present. No answer. We moved inside. The great room was a disaster. A broken vase lay in a puddle on the floor. A picture of us from a hiking trip in Big Sur was smashed. The glass glittering on the console table. The curtains on the window were torn halfway off the rod. He'd been here. He'd raged. 15 minutes. Officer Ruiz said gently. What do you need? I moved like a robot. Passport. Birth certificate. Social security card from the safe. I gave the officer the combination. My grandmother's jewelry from my dressing table. My laptop. Charger. A few changes of my own clothes from the walk-in closet that was mostly his. I avoided our bedroom, sending the younger officer in to grab a few things from my side. I went to my study, a tiny, sunlit room he'd always called your little nook. My old marketing awards were in a box on the shelf. I took the box. My favorite coffee mug. A framed photo of my sister and me. From the kitchen. I took the cast iron skillet my mother had given me. It was silly. It was heavy. But it was mine. I was placing it in the tote bag when I heard the front door open. What the hell is this? This is my house, Michael's voice, raw and ragged, echoed through the space. He stood in the foyer, still in his tuxedo pants and a rumpled dress shirt. Tie gone. Hair standing on end. He looked like he hadn't slept. He looked dangerous. Officer Ruiz stepped smoothly between him and the living room where I stood. Mr. Thorne. We're here so your wife can retrieve some personal items. Please remain calm. My wife. He snarled, trying to look around her. Rachel. What is this? You call the cops on me? After what you did? You humiliated me. You ruined me. I said nothing. I zipped the tote bag. You think you can just take my stuff? This is my house. Everything in it is mine. You hear me? You're nothing without me. Nothing. Officer Ruiz held up a hand. Sir. That's enough. She is retrieving her personal property. You need to step back. She's a liar. A conniving, hysterical bitch. She's trying to steal from me. She's in league with that snake Lisa Chen. He was hysterical. Spittle flying. The polished, charismatic Michael was gone. Stripped away to reveal the furious, entitled core. I turned and walked toward the kitchen's back entrance. The bag heavy on my shoulder. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Don't you walk away from me. Rachel. I kept walking. The younger officer fell in behind me. I'll destroy you. Michael's scream followed me out the door. into the cool, bright afternoon. You'll get nothing. You'll be back on your knees. You hear me? Nothing. The door of the police cruiser shut. Muting his voice, Officer Ruiz got in the front passenger seat. You okay? She asked, glancing back at me. I looked out the window at our beautiful, empty house. The curtain hung limply from the broken rod like a surrender flag. Yes, I said. And it was almost true. I'm okay. As the cruiser pulled away, I saw him stumble out the front door, his face contorted with rage, shaking his fist at the car. He looked small, and pathetic, and utterly lost. The officer dropped me at a neutral location, a coffee shop near Lisa's building. I thanked her, got another Uber, and went back to the clean, quiet apartment. I put the tote bag in the corner of the guest room. I didn't unpack it. I powered on the burner laptop. I Googled my name. The story was there. On the Chronicle site. Meredith Kane had worked fast. The headline was restrained. Perfect. Synapse execs charity gala outburst sparks divorce. Internal probe. It led with my statement. Quoted it in full. It mentioned the substantial donation to the women's shelter. It briefly described the unusual auction incident without sensationalizing. Then, in the fourth paragraph, it dropped the bomb. Sources within Synapse Dynamics confirm that Thorne has been placed on administrative leave following allegations of financial misconduct. Unrelated to last night's events, the company's board has launched an investigation. The comments were already flooding in. Some were vile, calling me a gold digger, a drama queen. But many more were from women. I've been there. You go, girl. $10,000 to watch that jerk get his worth every penny. The shelter donation is chef's kiss. My phone, still dead, felt like a relic from another life. On the burner laptop, a new email popped up. From Samantha Cho. Rachel. Statement placed perfectly. Kane's piece sets the tone. Police report from the scene at your residence has been filed. Officers noted significant property damage and verbally abusive behavior from Mr. Thorne. This supports our request for a TRO, which I am filing now. Expect a storm of abuse from his counsel later today. Do not engage. Forward anything you receive to me immediately. Next step, we freeze the accounts. I'll need you to electronically sign the papers I'm sending. Then, we wait for his move. Stay strong. You're doing exactly what you need to do. I opened the attachment. Dense legal language. Requests for temporary orders. My hand didn't shake as I used the trackpad to sign my name, Rachel Thorne. Not Rachel Thorne. The accessory. Not Rachel. The $3 wife. Just Rachel Thorne. I hit send. Outside, the grey morning had given way to a clear, cold afternoon. The bay was a sheet of brilliant blue. I sat at Lisa's desk, in the silent, safe room, and watched the sun glint off the water. The war had begun. The first skirmishes were over. The battlefield was drawn. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I was not afraid. I realized, furiously, gloriously angry. And I had an army of one, a ruthless lawyer named Samantha Cho, and a secret weapon named Lisa Chen. It was time to see what damage we could do. The silence of Lisa's apartment was a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. It filled quickly. Not with sound, but with consequence. The digital world Lisa had warned me about became a churning sea of repercussions. Each wave breaking against the shore of the burner laptop screen. First came the emails from Synapse's legal department, addressed formally to Mrs. Rachel Thorne, CCing Samantha Cho. Dry, legalese-laden notifications about Michael's suspension, about the ongoing internal review, about the company's commitment to a thorough and impartial process. They were masterpieces of saying nothing while acknowledging everything. Samantha forwarded them back with one-line responses, noted. My client has no comment at this time. Then, the messages from Michael's camp. Not from him directly. Samantha's warning had been a wall he couldn't breach, but from his lawyer, a man named Richard Kosner. His emails were a study in aggrieved bluster. A stark contrast to Samantha's surgical precision. Ms. Cho, your client's actions last night and her subsequent inflammatory public statement constitute a deliberate and malicious campaign to defame my client and interfere with his livelihood. Mr. Thorne's comments at a charitable function, while ill-advised, were clearly made in jest. Your client's disproportionate and vindictive response, including the leveraging of unsubstantiated and highly defamatory workplace rumors, is outrageous. We demand an immediate retraction of the public statement and a commitment from your client to engage in good faith private mediation to resolve marital issues. We will also be seeking a temporary restraining order against your client for harassment and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Any further public commentary will be met with the full force of litigation. Sincerely, Richard Kosner, Esquire. I read it, my blood running cold. He was seeking a restraining order against me for harassment. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it made the room tilt. Samantha's reply came 15 minutes later. It was a scalpel. Mr. Kosner, thank you for your email. We have received your threats and find them without legal or factual merit. My client's statement was factual and measured. The unsubstantiated rumors you reference are, in fact, the subject of a formal internal investigation at Synapse Dynamics, an investigation prompted by documented evidence of financial misconduct. We are in possession of information that supports these allegations. We welcome discovery. Regarding the events at the Thorne residence this afternoon, we have filed a police report, SFPD case documenting Mr. Thorne's destructive and verbally abusive behavior in the presence of law enforcement. Our petition for a temporary restraining order based on this conduct is pending. We have no interest in mediation at this time. We are preparing for divorce litigation. We suggest your client focus his resources on addressing the multiple investigations he now faces, both professional and personal. Any further contact with my client, directly or through intermediaries, will be construed as harassment. Regards, Samantha Cho, Esquire. She copied the entire Synapse legal team. Anne, I noticed with a jolt. The head of the Synapse board's audit committee is trying to bully you, Samantha said when I called her, my voice shaky. It's the only play he has left. He's cornered. The embezzlement. The gala, it's a perfect storm. His lawyer is throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something will scare us into backing down. We will not. A restraining order against me, I whispered, won't happen. The judge will see the police report. They'll see his behavior at the house. They'll see the charity auction footage. If it comes to that, it's a desperation move. Ignore it. But I couldn't ignore the next wave. It came via the landline, just after 5 p.m. Lisa, her voice crackling with a grim energy. It's done. The board just voted. He's terminated. For cause. Effective immediately. They're filing a report with the SEC and notifying the Asclepius people. The evidence was overwhelming. And once they saw the legal back and forth with your lawyer, they realized the liability of keeping him on was astronomical. They're cutting him loose to save themselves. Terminated. Not suspended. Fired. For cause. The words were final. The career he'd built, the identity he'd worn like a second skin, was gone. What happens now? Now, the real fun starts. The DA's office has been notified. White-collar crime unit. They'll be opening a file. It'll be slow. But it's a sword hanging over his head. More importantly for you, it means any assets he has are potentially forfeit, or at least frozen in a much more serious way. Your lawyer needs to move on the financial freeze like yesterday. She already has. Good. Rachel, there's something else. Her voice dropped. Jackson Reed just resigned to pursue other opportunities. The board accepted it immediately. The stink from this, they needed a bigger scalp. Michael was the tumor, but Jackson was the doctor who ignored the symptoms. He's out. The CEO. Gone. The ripple effect was becoming a tidal wave. And I was the stone thrown into the pond. The guilt was a quick, sharp stab, followed by a colder, harder truth. They'd all made their choices. Michael, Jackson. They'd built a house on a foundation of lies and arrogance. I'd just turned on the light so everyone could see the cracks. Thank you, Lisa, for everything. Don't thank me yet. The next part is the messiest. He's going to be completely unhinged. Be smart. Stay hidden. I hung up. The apartment felt smaller, the walls pressing in with the weight of the carnage. I was responsible for this. 2 careers, possibly 2 lives, in ruins. The part of me that had been trained for 8 years to soothe, to accommodate, to make nice, screamed in protest. Look what you've done. Then, I opened the browser again. I navigated to a local news site. There was a new headline. Below Meredith Kane's piece, Synapse Dynamics CEO exits amid fallout from VP's explosive gala incident. Fraud probe. I clicked it. It was a bare-bones corporate press release. But the comments section was a free-for-all. The narrative had solidified. Michael Thorne was no longer a rising star. He was a punchline. A cautionary tale. A crook. And I was the wife who'd finally had enough. My burner email pinged. It was from Samantha. With the subject line, urgent, call me. My heart leapt into my throat. I dialed. Rachel. Listen carefully. I just got a call from a process server. He attempted to serve Michael with our temporary restraining order and the divorce petition at his residence. Michael refused to accept the papers. He became physically aggressive, shoved the server, and slammed the door. The server called the police. Michael was arrested for assault and battery, and for resisting service. The world went silent. Arrested, booked. He's in county. He'll make bail. But it's a process. This changes the calculus significantly. I couldn't form a thought. Michael. In a cell. The man who cared more about his Italian loafers than anything else. In an orange jumpsuit. This is good. Samantha said. Her voice firm. It's very good. A criminal record. Even just an arrest. Gives us immense leverage in the divorce. It underscores the threat. It makes our TRO request a slam dunk. It also means he now has a criminal defense attorney to pay for. On top of everything else, his resources are being stretched to breaking point. It was good. In the cold, strategic sense, it was a gift. So why did I feel sick? I need you to understand something. Rachel. Samantha continued, her tone softening a fraction. The man you married is gone. If he ever existed. The man who is left is desperate, angry, and backed into a corner. He will do anything to hurt you. This arrest. It won't humble him. It will enrage him. You cannot afford a single moment of sympathy. Sympathy is a luxury. And it's a weapon he will use to bludgeon you with. Your only job is to survive. And to win. Do you understand? I saw the broken vase on my floor. I heard his scream. Nothing. I saw the spotlight. I saw Lisa's $10,000. A bet on his destruction. I understand. I said. My voice hollow but clear. Good. The police may contact you as part of their report on the assault. Refer them to me. Do not speak to them. Do not speak to anyone. Lie low. Let the machine do its work. I spent the evening in a state of suspended animation. I heated a frozen soup I found in Lisa's freezer. I ate it without tasting it. I watched the lights of the Bay Bridge come on. One by one. Tiny diamonds in the deepening blue. Just after 9 p.m., the landline rang again. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But it could be Samantha. Or Lisa. I picked up. Hello, a ragged breath. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years. A voice from before Michael. From a life that felt like someone else's fairy tale. Rachel. It's Ben. Ben Carter. Ben. My college boyfriend. The one before Michael. The kind, steady architect I'd left because he was too safe. Because Michael with his blinding ambition and expensive promises had seemed like a comet I had to catch. Ben. I managed. Utterly thrown. How did you get this number, Anna? I saw the news. I called her. She said you were safe. But, Jesus. Rachel. Are you okay? His voice was full of a concern so genuine. So uncomplicated. It was like a physical blow. There was no calculation in it. No strategy. Just worry. Tears. The first since my shower the night before. Pricked at my eyes. I blinked them back furiously. I'm managing. It's a lot. I can only imagine. That video clip, what he said. His voice tightened with anger. I always thought he was an asshole. But that's evil. Ratch. A week. Watery laugh escaped me. You were right. About all of it. A pause. That doesn't matter now. What matters is you. What can I do? Do you need a place to stay? Money? Anything. I'm taken care of. For now. But thank you. Ben. Really. It means a lot. It did. In the desert of cold legal maneuvers and corporate bloodletting. His call was an oasis of simple human kindness. Okay. Well. The offer stands. Anytime. Day or night. And Rachel. He took a deep breath. I'm proud of you. For walking away. Not many people have the guts to do that when it's that public. You were always stronger than you thought. The tears came then. Silent and hot. I couldn't speak. I'll let you go. He said softly. But remember. I'm here. Okay. I whispered. I set the phone down gently. As if it were made of glass. I sat in the dark. Letting the tears fall. They weren't for Michael. In his jail cell. They weren't for the ruined house. Or the broken career. They were for the woman who had believed the comet was better than the steady ground. They were for the years I'd spent convincing myself that constant criticism was passion. That control was protection. That loneliness was the price of success. Ben's call was a whisper from a road not taken. A reminder that not all men saw a price tag when they looked at me. It was a dangerous thought. A distracting one. Samantha would tell me to shut it down. But for a moment, in the silent, dark apartment, I let myself feel it. The kindness. The possibility that the world was not entirely made of Michaels and Jacksons and Richards. That there might be, somewhere on the other side of this war, something that was not a battlefield. The moment passed. The cold clarity returned. I wiped my face. I went to the guest room. I opened the burner laptop. There was a new email from Samantha. The judge had granted our temporary restraining order. Michael was legally barred from coming within 100 yards of me, Lisa's apartment, my sister's home, or our former residence. He was barred from contacting me directly or through third parties. The financial freeze was in place. Our first major victory. I wrote back. A simple, received. Thank you. Then I closed the laptop. I got into bed. I stared at the ceiling. The wheels were in motion. Too fast and too powerful to stop. Careers were destroyed. A man was in jail. A marriage was a legal carcass to be picked over by lawyers. I had wanted out. I had taken the microphone. Now, I had to live with the deafening, echoing silence of what came after. And I had to be ready for the inevitable, furious echo back. The morning came not with a sunrise, but with a deluge. The digital storm had broken. And the floodwaters of reality poured in, relentless and cold. First, the money, or the terrifying lack of it. Samantha's forensic accountant, a grimly cheerful man named Leo, had gained access to the financial freeze. He called me at 8 a.m., his voice a monotone recitation of ruin. Mrs. Thorne. Initial review. The joint savings account, $412.18. The joint checking, which was supposed to hold the quarterly property tax payment, $1,204.77, with a pending transfer out to an entity called M.T. Capital Ventures for $8,500. We blocked that. The investment portfolios, the ones you were listed on, are largely depleted. He's been liquidating positions for over a year. Moving funds into a series of LLCs we're still tracing. Your personal, separate account. The one with your freelance deposits. My stomach clenched. Yes, $87.22. The last deposit from your consulting work was 11 months ago. He's been systematically draining the liquidity. Rachel. For at least 18 months. The numbers hung in the air. Sterile and devastating. $400. $87. I was a woman with a temporary restraining order. A pro bono adjacent shark of a lawyer. and less than $500 to my name. The velvet dress felt like a costume from a play about a rich person. The house, I said, my voice thin. The equity, substantial. Leo conceded, but there's also a second mortgage he took out 6 months ago. Didn't you sign those papers? I remembered. A blur of documents. Refinancing for the kitchen renovation. I'd said. To increase the value. Sweetheart. Just sign here. I'd signed. The renovation never happened. The money vanished. The equity is likely cut in half. Maybe more. Leo said. And with him unemployed and under criminal investigation. The bank will want their money. Selling will be a fire sale. You shouldn't expect a windfall. I was poor. Not struggling. Not between things. Poor. The realization was a physical weight. Pressing the air from my lungs. Michael hadn't just hidden debt, he'd methodically impoverished me, making me utterly dependent. Then pulling the financial rug out from under a marriage he was publicly ridiculing. The cruelty was so comprehensive it felt architectural. What do I do? The question was a whisper. Survive. Leo said. Not unkindly. Samantha is filing for temporary spousal support. Given the income disparity and his conduct, a judge will likely grant it, even pending the divorce. But that takes time. Do you have family who can help? My mother was gone. My father. Distant. Anna was a teacher with 2 kids. I'll figure it out. I lied. Next came the media ripple. The chroniclery had been picked up. Not just locally. A snarky tech blog ran a piece titled From Synapse to Jail, the spectacular implosion of a tech bro. It featured a screenshot from the gala video. Michael's face contorted mid-laugh. Me a blurred figure in the spotlight. The comments were a torrent of schadenfreude. Someone had created a meme, a photoshopped auction paddle with $3 on it, held by a crying laughing emoji. My story, my pain, was internet fodder. Then, the messages, not to me directly, my fortress held, but to the world. Michael, out on bail, had given a statement to a tabloid site. Richard Kosner must have been having a stroke. It was a masterpiece of narcissistic victimhood. I am devastated by the loss of my career and reputation over a drunken joke my wife took out of context. The quote began. I loved Rachel deeply, but our marriage had been under strain for some time. She resented my success. What happened at the gala was a cry for help, twisted by others with agendas into something monstrous. The allegations at Synapse are a smear campaign by a colleague jealous of my position. I am confident I will be vindicated. My heart is broken. Not by the legal troubles, but by the betrayal of the woman I vowed to spend my life with. I pray she finds the help she clearly needs. I read it 3 times. The audacity was breathtaking. She resented my success. A cry for help. Jealous colleague. Betrayal. He was rewriting history in real time, painting himself as the tragic hero, misunderstood and brought low by a hysterical woman and corporate politics. It was the gaslighter's final, magnificent performance. Samantha's response was swift and public. A 2-sentence statement to the same outlet. Mr. Thorne's latest fiction is as credible as his company's accounting. We look forward to presenting the facts, both financial and personal, in a court of law. The war of narratives was on, and I was trapped in a soundproof apartment, armed with only a burner laptop and a rising tide of panic. The third wave was human. Anna arrived at Lisa's building just after noon, having convinced the doorman to call up. I'm not leaving until I see her, she'd said. Lisa, from the office, gave the okay. When I opened the door, Anna took one look at me, pale, in borrowed clothes, shadows like bruises under my eyes, and pulled me into a fierce, silent hug. She smelled of baby wipes and coffee, the smell of normal life. I clung to her, the solid, real weight of her, and for a minute, I didn't have to be strong. She came in, dropping a bulging tote bag on the floor. Clothes. Yours. I went back this morning. He wasn't there. Cops were taking more pictures. I grabbed what I could. Also, this. She handed me an envelope. Inside was $5,000 in crisp hundreds. From Mom's trust. Mine. Don't you dare argue. It's a loan. With interest. You'll pay me back when you're a rich, divorced mogul. Tears threatened again. Anna. I can't. You can. You will. Now. What's the plan? You can't live in this museum forever. She looked around Lisa's pristine apartment with a teacher's practical disdain for the impractical. I don't know. Samantha says support will come. But it takes weeks. I have no job. My resume has a 4-year hole in it I spent as a corporate spouse. The words tasted like ash. Anna sat on the edge of the sofa, leaning forward. Okay. First, you come stay with me and the kids. It's chaotic. And you'll be on the pull-out couch. But it's a roof. I shook my head. I can't bring this to your doorstep. The reporters. The drama. Your kids don't need that. And Michael, he knows where you live. The TRO helps. But I won't risk it. She sighed, knowing I was right. Then we find you a place. A short-term rental. Something anonymous. We use this. She tapped the envelope of cash. For deposit and first months. You get a job. Any job. To show the court you're trying. And you start rebuilding. Not the you that was with him. The you before him. Who were you? Ratch, the question hung in the air. Who was I? Before the burgundy dresses and the charity galas and the careful, curated silence. I'd been Rachel Alves, marketing director. I'd been good at it. I'd loved the puzzle of it. The storytelling. The connecting of people to things they needed. I'd had friends. I'd laughed loudly. I'd worn emerald green silk and not given a damn who thought it was too much. I was someone who worked. I said slowly. Someone who had ideas. Then be her again. Starting now. Anna's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Her face hardening. Speaking of ideas, you need to see this. She handed me her phone. It was a Facebook post. From Caitlin Vance. Michael's ex. It was a photo of the two of them from years ago. Tanned and laughing on a sailboat. The caption was a knife. Expertly wielded. Sometimes the universe has a funny way of showing you the bullet you dodged. Thinking of all the strong women out there finding their voice and remembering their worth. #karma #not my auction problem #supporting women. It had thousands of likes. Hundreds of shares. Comments praising her grace and savage clapback. She'd inserted herself into the narrative perfectly. Emerging as a glamorous, wise survivor. She'd even used the hashtag #not my auction problem. It was trending. She's leveraging this. Anna said flatly. Building her brand. It's gross. But it was also clever. And it gave me an idea. A dangerous, thrilling, possibly stupid idea. After Anna left, armed with instructions to look for a small, furnished studio in a nondescript neighborhood, I sat with the idea. It coiled in my mind. Restless. Caitlin was selling a story of retroactive triumph. I had a story of real-time survival. And a cause. The shelter. I called Samantha. I laid it out. My words tumbling over each other. The shelter donation. The $10,000. It's a powerful story. But it's stuck in the legal and gossip columns. What if I told it? Not about him. About it. About the shelter. About why their cause. Specifically. Not to get back at Michael. To reclaim the narrative and actually do something with it. A fundraiser. A real one. Tied to the story. Samantha was silent for a long moment. It's high risk. It could look opportunistic. It could give him and his lawyer more ammunition to call you a grandstander. They'll say that anyway. They're already saying it. This way. I control what the grandstanding is for. It's not about my divorce. It's about the fact that his joke highlighted a real problem. I could channel the attention, the clicks, the outrage, the memes, into something that actually helps. It shows agency. It shows I'm not just a victim waiting for a court date. I'm rebuilding. Publicly. Another pause. I could almost hear her sharp mind weighing the angles. You'd need a platform. A partner. Not the media. Someone with credibility in the non-profit or women's space. I could reach out to the shelter's development director. Offer to help them tell the story. To use it to launch a campaign. The $10,000 bid or something. I could volunteer. I could use my marketing skills. For them, the idea was taking shape, solidifying. It was a way to use the weapon he'd handed me, the humiliating, public attention, and turn it into a tool. It's unorthodox, Samantha finally said, but it's not without strategic merit. It makes you a protagonist, not a plaintiff. It creates a positive association that could blunt his smear campaign. And it gets you working, building a portfolio, making connections, all good things for a judge to see. But Rachel, it will make you a target. Again, I'm already a target, I said, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of something besides fear or anger. It was determination. I'd rather be a target for building something than for being destroyed. Samantha sighed, a sound of reluctant admiration. All right. Draft a proposal. Let me vet it. Then, and only then, you can reach out to the shelter. No promises. No commitments. A proposal. And you do it from a new, professional email address. Not Rachel Thorne, the wronged wife. Rachel Alves, the marketing consultant. Rachel Alves, my maiden name. It felt like putting on a suit of armor I'd left in a closet a lifetime ago. I spent the rest of the afternoon and into the evening at the burner laptop. Not reading news, but building. I created a new email, Rachel Alves, consulting@gmail.com. I researched the Bay Area Women's and Children's Crisis Shelter. I looked at their donor reports. Their messaging. They were good. Solid. Underfunded. I wrote a proposal. I called it the unlikely fundraiser, leveraging a viral moment for lasting impact. I outlined the story, discreetly, focusing on the charitable bid and the cause, not the personal drama. I proposed a social media campaign centered on the hashtag #MoreThanABid, encouraging women to share stories of support, of finding their worth. I suggested a virtual fundraising event, a solidarity salon with speakers, maybe a few well-chosen celebrities Lisa might know. I offered my services, pro bono, to project manage it. I included a tentative budget, a timeline, potential partnerships. It was good. It was professional. It was the work of the woman I used to be. I sent it to Samantha. An hour later, her reply came, surprisingly solid. A few legal tweaks to liability clauses. Send it. I made the tweaks. I stared at the "to" line in the email client. I addressed it to the shelter's development director, a woman named Marisol Vega. My finger hovered over the trackpad. This was the line. Once I crossed it, there was no going back to hiding. I would be stepping back into the spotlight, on my own terms. It was terrifying. It was also the only way forward I could see that didn't involve slowly going mad in Lisa's beautiful, silent prison. I thought of Michael's statement. A cry for help. This wasn't a cry. It was a declaration. I hit send. The email vanished into the ether. The silence returned. But it felt different now. It was the silence of a drawn bowstring, of a breath held before a leap. I was no longer just weathering the aftermath. I was building a raft from the wreckage. And I was about to see if it would float. The 2 days that followed were a masterclass in the physics of a collapsing life. Each action precipitated an equal and opposite, often devastating, reaction. First, the shelter. Marisol Vega, the development director, wrote back within 6 hours. Her email was cautious but crackling with a keen, pragmatic interest. She'd seen the news. She'd received the $10,000 check from Lisa Chen, accompanied by a note stating it was inspired by Rachel Thorne's advocacy. The money was real, and it was already earmarked for a new security system they desperately needed. My proposal, she said, was bold and unorthodox, and she wanted to meet, not at the shelter, which was besieged by curious reporters after the Chronicle article mentioned it, at a small, family-owned cafe in the outer sunset, far from the downtown glare. I had Samantha vet the location. I wore a baseball cap and Anna's sunglasses. I felt like a spy in a bad movie. Marisol was in her late 50s, with a calm, weathered face and eyes that missed nothing. She shook my hand, her grip firm. Thank you for coming, Rachel, and for the creative thinking. She ordered us both strong coffee and got straight to the point. Your proposal, It's smart. It turns a sordid story into a fundraising hook. I've been in non-profit development for 30 years. I've never seen anything like it. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It means it's a risk. I know it's a risk, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. For you. Especially. You're associated with me. You're associated with that night. It could backfire. Donors could be put off. Some will. She nodded. The pearl clutchers. The ones who think women's shelters should be quiet, shameful places. But others. She leaned forward. Others will see a woman who was publicly shamed turning that shame into a shield for other women. They'll see a story of agency. In my world, stories move money. And this is one hell of a story. She sipped her coffee. But I have conditions. 1. This is not about your divorce. Not publicly. The campaign is about the shelter. About the issue. About community support. We are not selling tickets to your court dates. 2. You work under our guidance. You're a volunteer project lead. You use your skills. We provide the cause and the credibility. 3. We have final say on all messaging. No surprises. They were more than fair. They were protective of the shelter. And I realized. Of me. Agreed. All of it. Good. Then welcome aboard. Project lead Alvies. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. We've already had 3 unsolicited donations this morning from people who read the article and looked us up. The Rachel Thorne bump is real. Let's see if we can make it a tidal wave. We spent an hour sketching a plan. A hash more than a bid social media launch. A low-key, high-impact virtual event she called a solidarity circle. Featuring a survivor from the shelter. A local poet. And, if we could swing it, a celebrity ally. My job was to make it happen, liaise with a pro bono PR firm Lisa New. Source a streaming platform. Design the assets. It was work. Real. Tangible. Demanding work. It felt like oxygen. But as I left the cafe, buoyed by a fragile sense of purpose, the other side of the equation asserted itself. Samantha called as I was in the Uber back to Lisa's. The temporary support hearing is scheduled for next week. The judge is favorable. But Michael's side is digging in. Richard Kosner is now alleging you dissipated marital assets. He's pointing to the $5,000 from your sister as evidence you're hiding money. He's also subpoenaing Lisa Chen's financials, trying to prove the $10,000 bid was a coordinated fraud to devalue Michael's character. The absurdity was breathtaking. That's insane. It's a strategy. Muddy the waters. Make you look like a conspirator instead of a victim. It won't work. But it's expensive to fight. Which is the point, to drain your resources before you have any. We'll beat it back. But it's a warning. He's not going to play fair. He's going to try to drag everyone you know into the mud. Then, the final, brutal piece of calculus. Leo, the forensic accountant, called Samantha on a 3-way later that afternoon. His voice was grim. We've traced the LLCs. M.T. Capital Ventures. Apex Holdings. They're shells. The money didn't go to bad investments. Rachel. It went to a sportsbook. An offshore, high-stakes poker site. And to a woman in Las Vegas. A personal wellness consultant named Chloe. Whose invoices for life coaching total over $80,000 in the last year alone. The room tilted. Gambling. And another woman. Of course. The debts. The secrecy. The constant trips to conferences in Vegas. It wasn't just about humiliating me. It was about funding a secret life. I was the inconvenient, aging wife he was bankrupting to pay for his vices and his mistress. The gambling debt is substantial. Leo continued. 6 figures. The creditors are not the friendly type. This adds a layer of urgency. These people will come for whatever assets are left. They don't care about divorce decrees. So the marital estate, Samantha said, her voice like chilled steel, is not just depleted. It's a target for underworld collection agencies. Lovely. I sat on the floor of Lisa's guest room, the phone on speaker beside me, staring at the geometric pattern of the rug, the numbers, the betrayal, the sheer, tawdry stupidity of it all piled up. A mountain of ruin. I felt a hysterical laugh bubble in my throat. He'd auctioned me for $3 while he was secretly betting thousands on a hand of blackjack. He'd called me a nag while paying a wellness consultant in Vegas. The punchline was so much worse than the joke. What does this mean for me? I asked, my voice eerily calm. It means we go for a clean break. Samantha said. We argue that due to his intentional dissipation of assets, fraud, and extraordinary misconduct, you are entitled to a disproportionate share of whatever is left, the house equity, his remaining retirement funds, which we've frozen. We also argue that his gambling addiction and adultery negate any claim he might have to spousal support from you. Should you ever make money again, we push for a quick settlement. He's facing debt collectors and a possible criminal indictment. He'll want it over with. We can use that. A clean break. It sounded like surgery, amputation, and the house, we sell, as fast as we can. The bank will want their money. The second mortgage holder will want theirs. After commissions, taxes, and debts, if we're lucky, you might walk away with $40,000-50,000. It's not nothing. It's a start. $50,000. For 8 years. For my 20s. For the slow erosion of my soul. It was a pittance. It was also a lifeline. Anna found me a studio apartment. It was in a bland, safe neighborhood in the Richmond district. 400 square feet with a view of another building's wall. The rent was exorbitant for what it was, but it was available immediately. Furnished. And the landlord didn't ask questions when paid in cash. I used Anna's money for the deposit and first month's rent. I had maybe $2,000 left. The temporary support, if granted, wouldn't come for weeks. I moved in the next day. My possessions fit into 3 suitcases and the box containing my grandmother's skillet. Lisa drove me, silent until we pulled up to the curb. This is it? She asked, looking at the nondescript stucco building. This is it. She nodded, approving. Anonymous. Good. Keep your head down. Do the work for the shelter. It's a good play. Builds a new narrative. She handed me a small, sealed envelope, a parting gift, for operational security. Inside was a prepaid debit card, loaded with $5,000, and a note, seed funding. Pay me back when you're solvent. No interest. L.C. I tried to protest. She held up a hand. It's not charity. It's an investment in the destruction of a common enemy. And in a potentially useful ally. Take it. Be smart with it. I took it. The weight of the debt, to Anna, to Lisa, to Samantha's deferred fees, was now a mountain on my shoulders. But it was a mountain of my own choosing. Not his. The first night in the studio, surrounded by the hum of a stranger's refrigerator and the glow of the burner laptop, I began. I emailed the PR firm. I drafted copy for the More Than a Bid campaign. I created spreadsheets. I was Rachel Alves, marketing consultant, working pro bono for a worthy cause. The work was a sanctuary. For hours at a time. I didn't think about Michael, the debt, the looming court dates. I thought about conversion rates and email subject lines and speaker outreach. Just before midnight, as I was designing a simple graphic for the shelter's Instagram, an email notification popped up. It was to my new Rachel Alves consulting address. The subject line, consulting inquiry. My heart stuttered. I opened it. Ms. Alves, my name is Evelyn Ross. I'm the founder of Ether Apparel, a sustainable activewear brand you may know. A mutual connection, who prefers to remain anonymous for now, passed along your proposal for the Bay Area Women's Shelter campaign. I was impressed. More than that, I was moved. What you're doing, turning a personal catastrophe into professional purposeful action, is exactly the kind of resilient, strategic thinking I value. We're a small but growing company. And we've been looking for a fractional CMO or senior marketing consultant to help us scale our message. Your background, combined with the sheer ingenuity of this shelter project, suggests you might be the person we're looking for. I know you're in the midst of significant personal transition. This would be project-based, remote, completely on your terms. We can start with a small, Paid trial project if that feels more comfortable. Would you be open to a brief conversation next week? Best. Evelyn, I read it 4 times. The mutual connection had to be Lisa. Or someone from the PR firm. It didn't matter. It was real. It was work. Paid work. For me. For my skills. Not my story. I didn't let myself feel the hope yet. Hope was a liability. But I felt the click of a tumbler. The first faint shift of a lock turning. I had built a tiny raft from the wreckage. And someone, from the safety of the shore, was throwing me a rope. I wrote back. Careful. Professional. Agreeing to a call. I didn't sign it Rachel Thorne. I signed it Rachel Alves. Then I went back to the shelter's Instagram graphic. I tweaked the color palette. I refined the tagline. The work was the thing. The work was the new calculus. Not of loss and debt, but of effort and yield. It was a language I was beginning to remember how to speak. One spreadsheet. One email. One design at a time. I was rebuilding the arithmetic of my own life. And for the first time in 8 years, I was the one holding the pencil. The courtroom for the final divorce hearing was nothing like the grand ballroom. It was a bland, fluorescent lit box on the 8th floor of the San Francisco Civic Center, smelling of industrial cleaner and faint despair. The wooden benches were hard. The air was stale. It was a place for endings, not performances. I sat beside Samantha Cho, who looked like a sleek dagger in a navy suit. Across the aisle, Michael slouched next to Richard Kosner. 3 months had carved canyons into Michael's face. The arrogant bluster was gone, replaced by a sullen, hollowed-out resentment. His suit, once impeccable, looked rented and a size too big. The Asclepius deal was a distant memory. The embezzlement case was pending, a grinding stone that had already pulverized his savings. The gambling debts had collectors calling, their threats leaking into the legal filings. The woman in Vegas, Chloe, had given a sworn statement to our investigators in exchange for immunity from any fraud charges. The details were sordid, expensive, and utterly convincing. There was no audience here. No spotlight. Just a weary judge, a court reporter, and the brittle silence of 2 people who had promised each other forever. Now here to argue over the scraps. Judge Helen Ramos, a woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, reviewed the final settlement agreement. The terms were stark. The fruit of 3 months of brutal negotiation, subpoenas, and strategic leaks. The marital residence was to be sold immediately. After liens, debts, and fees, the net proceeds, estimated at $48,750, would be awarded entirely to me, Rachel Thorne, as restitution for Michael's intentional dissipation of assets and extraordinary misconduct. Michael's remaining 401k, $22,400 after early withdrawal penalties, would be split, with 75% awarded to me. All other joint assets were considered depleted or valueless. Michael's claims for any form of spousal support were denied, permanently. I waived any claim to future income he might theoretically earn, and he waived any claim to mine. The restraining order would be made permanent for a period of 3 years. We would have no contact, of any kind, ever again. It was a clean break, a radical amputation. I got a little cash and my freedom. He got the debts, the lawsuits, and the ruins of his reputation. Mr. Thorne, Judge Ramos said, her voice echoing slightly in the quiet room, you understand that by agreeing to this settlement, you are relinquishing all claims to the proceeds of the home sale and accepting the division of retirement assets as outlined. Michael's jaw worked. He glanced at Kosner, who gave a tiny, urgent nod. They had no choice. The criminal case hung over him. The debt collectors were circling. This settlement, as punishing as it was the only way to potentially avoid prison and buy a shaky, temporary peace with the people he owed. He needed it over. Yes, Your Honor, he muttered. The words dragged from him. And you, Ms. Thorne, you understand this is a full and final settlement. No further claims. I looked at Samantha. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. I looked at the judge. Yes, Your Honor, I do. Very well. Judge Ramos signed the decree with a sharp flourish. The marriage of Michael Thorne and Rachel Thorne is hereby dissolved. Judgment entered accordingly. Good luck to you both. She said it the way one might say watch your step. It was over. 8 years. Undone in 8 minutes. We stood. Samantha touched my elbow. A signal to leave quickly. Cleanly. But as I turned, Michael took a half step forward. Happy now? He hissed. The venom so raw it cut through the sterile air. You got your pound of flesh. Enjoy your blood money. Samantha started to interpose herself. But I held up a hand. I looked at him. Really looked. Not at the ghost of the man I'd loved. Or the monster on the stage. But at the ruined, bitter stranger before me. The hatred in his eyes was the last familiar thing. I didn't say a word. I just looked at him. My face a calm, blank mirror. Then I turned and walked out of the courtroom. Samantha a step behind me. His question hung in the air. Unanswered because it was the wrong question. It assumed this was about happiness. Or vengeance. It wasn't. It was about survival. And I had survived. The sunlight outside was shockingly bright. I blinked. Feeling weightless and oddly heavy at the same time. The legal battle was over. The war, in a sense, was won. Now came the peace. And peace, I was learning, was its own kind of work. 6 months later, the Solidarity Salon for the Bay Area Women's and Children's Crisis Shelter wasn't held in a ballroom. It was a professionally produced virtual event, streamed live from a donated studio space. I watched from the control room, wearing a headset, my heart hammering not with fear, but with focused adrenaline. Marisol Vega had been right. The story was powerful. The More Than a Bid campaign had gone modestly viral in the right circles. We'd secured a famous actress who was a survivor of domestic abuse to host. We had a poet. We had a financial advisor talking about economic independence. We had a survivor from the shelter, her voice strong and clear, telling her story without ever mentioning mine. Yet the connection was palpable. My role was invisible, coordinating from the shadows. That was the deal. But as the donation ticker on the screen climbed, $25, $000, $50, $000, $75, $000, a fierce, quiet pride burned in my chest. We'd channeled the spectacle, the pity, the outrage, into this, into real money for new beds, for legal aid, for security systems. Lisa's $10,000 bid had been the spark. This was the fire. At the end of the hour, the host looked into the camera, her eyes warm and serious. Tonight was inspired by a simple, radical act, a woman reclaiming her narrative. Remember, your worth is never, ever up for auction. Thank you for proving that with your generosity tonight. Our final total, the ticker settled, is $118,400. The control room erupted in quiet, professional cheers. Marisol, standing beside me, squeezed my shoulder. You did good. Alves, you did real good. After, as we were packing up, Evelyn Ross, founder of Ether Apparel, approached me. My trial project for her had turned into a steady, part-time consulting retainer. It paid my rent on the studio apartment and kept the lights on. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine. Rachel, that was incredible, Evelyn said. The storytelling, the production, flawless. I have a proposal. We're launching a new line. I'd like you to lead the campaign. Full-time. A proper salary. Benefits. What do you say? It was the rope from the shore. Now a sturdy bridge. I looked at her. At Marisol. At the now dark studio where something good had just happened. I'd be honored, I said. And for the first time, the smile that reached my eyes was unforced, unburdened. Later that night, back in my tiny studio, I scrolled through the news on my phone, a real phone. With a real plan I paid for myself. There was a small item in the business section, ex-Synapse VP Thorne pleads to misdemeanor fraud. Avoids jail time. He'd gotten probation, a massive fine, and a permanent ban from serving as an officer of a public company. It was a slap. But in the world he'd wanted to rule, it was a death sentence. I felt nothing. Not triumph. Not sorrow. Just the quiet click of a final door closing. A text chimed. It was from Ben Carter. Saw the stream. Amazing work. Still proud. Coffee sometime? The safe. Boring kind. I smiled. I typed back. I'd like that. I put the phone down. I looked around my small, own space. The box with my marketing awards was on a shelf. My grandmother's skillet hung by the stove. The studio was quiet. But it was my quiet. The silence wasn't oppressive, it was peaceful. It was the sound of my own thoughts. Unchallenged. I had started with a bid of $1. For the right to my own life. The final tally wasn't in a bank account. Though the $48, $7.50 from the house sale, now sitting in a high-yield savings account alongside my ether earnings, was a comfort. The final tally was in the quiet of this room. In the work I'd done for the shelter. In the job I'd earned. In the tentative friendship with Ben. In the unwavering solidarity of Anna. The ruthless alliance of Lisa. The sharp protection of Samantha. My value had never been up for auction. It had only ever been mine to define. For 8 years. I'd let someone else set the price. No more. I walked to the window. Looking out at the blank wall of the adjacent building. I couldn't see the stars. Or the bay. Or a glittering skyline. But I could see my own reflection in the dark glass. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I recognized the woman looking back.